In the 1970s, American television sold a fantasy of perfection. Glamour looked effortless, fame looked joyful, and stardom seemed like a reward rather than a burden. One woman came to embody that fantasy more than anyone else. To the public, she was radiant, confident, and untouchable. But behind the camera, a very different reality was unfolding. The woman the world adored was quietly suffocating under the weight of her own image. Fame gave her visibility, but it also stripped her of control. While millions celebrated what they thought she represented, very few understood what she was actually enduring. This is not just the story of a television star, it is the story of how an industry profits from illusion, how women are boxed into narrow roles, and how one icon slowly realized that the version of herself the world loved was never truly hers. The truth she revealed later would permanently change how her legacy is understood. She was born in Corpus Christi, Texas, into a disciplined, faith-centered household. From an early age, she stood out for her beauty, but beauty was never her ambition. She was athletic, intelligent, and academically driven. When she enrolled at the University of Texas, her focus was science, specifically microbiology. Acting was not part of the plan. Modeling was not a dream. Hollywood was nowhere on the map. But fate intervened in the most unexpected way. A photograph caught the attention of industry insiders, and suddenly opportunities appeared that were impossible to ignore. What began as a temporary detour quickly became permanent. Financial security, attention, and momentum replaced lectures and lab work. Without realizing it, she stepped onto a path where her appearance would always matter more than her mind. The transition was fast, seductive, and irreversible. The future scientist quietly disappeared, replaced by a version of herself shaped almost entirely by how others saw her. Her early years in Hollywood were far from glamorous. She appeared in minor television roles on shows like I Dream of Jeannie and The Partridge Family, playing small, forgettable parts that offered little creative fulfillment. These roles paid the bills, but they did not build a career. Film appearances followed, including projects like Logan's Run, yet none of them established her as a serious actress. Hollywood was crowded with beautiful women, and beauty alone rarely guaranteed longevity. During this period, her personal life also entered the spotlight after she married actor Lee Majors. She was increasingly viewed not as an individual talent, but as an accessory to someone else's success. The industry still hadn't decided what to do with her, until one role changed everything. Everything shifted with Charlie's Angels. The concept was simple, glossy, and perfectly designed for mass appeal. Produced by Aaron Spelling, the show became an overnight sensation. Three glamorous women solving crimes captured the national imagination, but one angel quickly eclipsed the rest. Her popularity exploded beyond the show itself. Magazine covers, interviews, endorsements, her image was suddenly everywhere. What few people knew was that she had never signed a long-term contract. That detail mattered. She understood something many performers didn't yet recognize: her image was worth far more than her paycheck. While the show generated enormous profits, her compensation lagged far behind the value she created. Stardom arrived instantly, but power did not come with it. And as the show's success grew, so did the tension between who she was and how she was being used. One photograph changed pop culture forever. A red swimsuit poster became one of the best-selling images of the decade, turning her into a global icon. Millions of copies sold. Dorm rooms, bedrooms, and walls across America displayed her image. That single poster earned more money than an entire season of television work. The imbalance was staggering. While studios and advertisers profited endlessly, her television salary remained modest. When she asked for better pay and a share of merchandising revenue, she was labeled unreasonable. Yet her husband earned many times more per episode on his own show. The message was clear: her value was acceptable only as long as she didn't acknowledge it herself. The poster immortalized her beauty, but it also exposed a harsh reality. Her face was generating millions, while the system insisted she should be grateful for far less. Perhaps the most revealing detail of all was hidden in a contract clause. She insisted on being allowed to leave set early so she could go home and prepare dinner for her husband. The fact that this needed to be written into a contract speaks volumes about the era. She wasn't just balancing a career. She was performing an expectation. Despite grueling production schedules that began before sunrise, she felt compelled to hide her exhaustion to preserve domestic normalcy. The pressure to be both a star and a traditional wife was relentless. Ironically, the marriage she worked so hard to protect eventually collapsed anyway. The sacrifice achieved nothing but personal loss. What this clause truly revealed was the impossible standard placed on women. Succeed publicly, submit privately, and never let either role show strain. It was not a choice made freely, it was survival within a system designed to demand compromise. When she decided to leave the show, the response was swift and brutal. The studio sued her for millions of dollars, accusing her of breach of contract. The lawsuit was not just about money, it was about power. It sent a warning to every actor watching: independence would be punished. She was effectively blacklisted. Projects disappeared. Doors closed. At the height of her fame, she became untouchable in the worst possible way. Eventually, a settlement forced her to return for guest appearances, a symbolic reminder that control still rested elsewhere. The experience nearly destroyed her career, but it also hardened her resolve. She refused to disappear quietly. What was meant to break her instead reshaped her. She learned that compliance offered no protection, and silence offered no safety. Freed from the image that defined her, she turned toward difficult, unglamorous roles. Television, films, and stage work became her proving ground. Performances in projects like The Burning Bed finally earned critical respect. For the first time, audiences saw pain, vulnerability, and depth rather than surface perfection. Awards and nominations followed, validating what she had always believed about herself. This phase of her career was quieter but far more meaningful. She was no longer chasing popularity, she was reclaiming her identity. Each role was a deliberate rejection of the stereotype that had once defined her. It took years of persistence, but she ultimately achieved something far more lasting than fame, credibility. In her final years, she faced cancer with the same determination she had brought to her career battles. Through the documentary Farrah's Story, she chose to show the world the unfiltered reality of illness and mortality. No glamour. No illusion. Just honesty. Friends like Jacqueline Smith stood by her, offering loyalty that had endured decades. The documentary was more than a medical chronicle, it was an act of reclaiming her narrative. For the first time, she controlled how her story was told. In vulnerability, she found strength. In truth, she found peace. Her death was tragically overshadowed by global headlines elsewhere, but history has been kinder. Today, her decisions are seen not as defiance, but as courage. Leaving an exploitative system. Demanding fair compensation. Choosing artistic growth over easy fame. These choices define her legacy far more than any poster ever could.